Hello, people. Welcome to Choco Millionaire. In this video, I'm going to share my thoughts on the making a decision between studying in a university versus in a college. Now, the reasons I will give are my personal opinion and not that of an expert, an education consultant, or some professional out there. So please don't take them serious. If you like to listen to authorities, you might want to just do a little bit more research or speak with the right people. Otherwise, let me just share my thoughts on this. So there are a couple of reasons why people choose to study in a university in Canada versus study in a college in Canada. Whatever the reasons are, the most important thing is that you know why you're making them. I'm going to start off by just explaining the different types of courses or directions that people go. So at the university level, some people may go for a bachelor's degree, which is mostly a 4-year program. All right. Some people may also go for a graduate study, either a master's or a PhD. A master's in Canada is either 1 year or 2 years, and a PhD is a minimum of 4. There are also people who go for graduate diplomas, which could either be 1 year or 2 years. Now, in the colleges, typically the programs are 1 year and 2 years. Now, some colleges do have bachelor degree programs that they also run. So those colleges may have the permission or approval to run certain bachelors. So don't be surprised if you go to a college's website and then you see them also offer like a 4-year bachelor's or even advanced diplomas running into 3 years. It's possible. But typically, universities will be the places that you say you're going to shop for your bachelor degrees or undergraduate degrees and your master's and your PhDs. Whilst colleges will be where you get your certificate programs like diplomas and all of that done for 1 or 2 years as well. Now, in terms of the reasons, you want to probably look at your professional goals or career goals for choosing a particular course. You also want to look at your immigration objectives or goals as well for choosing a particular institution. And then you also want to overall look at your finances in terms of your resources that are available. Now, in my personal opinion, universities are not the cheapest in Canada. Unless you're on a scholarship, either like a partial scholarship or a full scholarship, they are not the easiest of places to study in terms of raising the funds. If you're doing a master's and you're on scholarship, then a university is the best place for you. Or if you're going to do a PhD, then the university is the best place for you because you can't do master's and you cannot do a PhD in colleges. So depending on what you want to do and the funds available, you see that universities are mostly known for their scholarships. In Canada, master's degrees and PhDs, especially if you go the thesis route, you are likely going to get a scholarship if they admit you and your GPA is actually pretty good in terms of your qualifying GPA that you used to apply. So therefore, someone like me, I couldn't have gone to a college because I did not have the resources. I went to a university because I got a scholarship, a full scholarship to study for free. So in that sense, a master's worked for me. I also have friends who are doing their PhDs, and the cost of the education at the PhD level is no joke at all. It's crazy. We're talking about $30,000 a year plus. And so therefore, if you're going to do a 4-year study at a PhD level and there is no scholarship for it, how then do you do it? So that is why some of these courses make more sense to do them at a university level. All right. So finance is very, very important. Now, colleges tend to generally be cheaper than university programs, even if you compare a general undergraduate university course in Canada and you compare that against colleges tend to be slightly cheaper. The average college course for a 1 year across the whole of Canada, if you strike the average, will be in a ballpark of 17,000 to 18,000 Canadian dollars. Now remember, this could always change depending on the school you choose, but we'll put it around 17,000 to 18,000 for a 1-year college program. Now, if you go to a degree and you are doing either an undergraduate degree or a graduate degree and you are the one to pay for your own tuition, we are talking a minimum 25,000 Canadian dollars for the same. So the cost here colleges will almost all the time be cheaper than universities. Of course, there are some exceptions. There are few institutions here in Canada that could slightly be cheaper than the national average. Memorial University, for example, could have graduate degree programs running to about what, $1,000 a semester. I've done a video on that already. Remember, it also depends on the kind of graduate program you go for at this particular institution. So therefore, if you are financially fit and you think you have the resources to actually go through the course of educating yourself at a university level, at a bachelor's or a master's or a PhD, especially if you don't have scholarship, then you could go for the master's or the undergraduate ones or the PhD. But if you are somebody who is on a tight budget and you don't find an affordable university degree, whether it's a bachelor's or a master's or PhD, especially if you don't have scholarship, then you might want to look into colleges where, they are a little bit more flexible. Their payment, some colleges will even give you a payment plan to actually kind of pay it. They are a little bit more lenient. And the structure of their payment is actually something that a lot of international students will be able to handle, especially if you work with the school to give you a structure of payment where you pay like in bit, especially if you pay your first semester. I also have noticed that most parents who send their wards to come to study in countries like Canada or the US, especially at the undergraduate level, are parents who are very wealthy or are middle class people. So a typical politician from a West African country will send their children to go do an undergraduate degree or a master's, and maybe they're using a government scholarship that they got through corruption, or they are the ones actually paying with some of the monies that they've made. And I've also found out that one of the reasons why some parents prefer sending their kids to go do undergraduate bachelor's degrees or maybe a master's of 2 years or whatever, especially if they're the ones paying, is that sometimes it is because they feel that their kids or their children are not mature enough to go and do a quick 1-year certificate program in a college and then face the job market right away. Maybe your child is 16, you're worried that your child is not mature enough and ready for the job market. So why go do a short 1-year program, and then after that, you still have to be kind of wiping their bum and changing their diaper kind of thing at this level. So a lot of people feel that the 4-year undergraduate program kind of gives their children a lot of time to transition through life. And by the time they are done, maybe they are around 20 or 21, 22, where they are a little bit more mature cognitively, intellectually, emotionally, physically, to actually be able to enter the job market or the world of work. Colleges are quicker and shorter. So there are a lot of people who prefer to send their kids to universities. And in fact, I've also noticed that for such parents, when they send their kids to the universities for undergraduate studies, they prefer to put them on campus where they are being where their meals and everything is covered in the tuition. And for them, it's one of the ways of taking off the stress of what my child is going to eat, who is going to be there for them. So I'd rather put them in a university where all of these expenses are paid as part of their hostel and their fees. It is no joke. So a Nigerian woman called me recently and we spoke. She has a daughter doing an undergraduate program, which is bachelor's, 4 years. 2 years into the program, she's financially stuck. She's not able to continue. She's now weighing the option of, should I defer? Should I change? What do I do? I'm stuck. It's not even about just the money is not there. So this is one of the long-term challenges that comes with doing 4 years undergraduate degrees, especially if you send your child there. The money is no joke. Think about it. If it costs an average of $20,000 to $25,000 to do a 1-year degree program, and your child is going to 4 years, that means the tuition alone in 4 years could easily push $100,000. Remember, this is just school fees. Food is not part. The estimated living expenses per year for an international student is an additional $20,635. So for 4 years, that is a little over $80,000 too, isn't it? You really have almost $200,000 to invest in your child's 4 years straight. You got to be making some real liquid cash. Otherwise, halfway through, your ward may not be able to finish, or you may have to liquidate stuff just to keep up with the cost here. Also remember that for such long studies, there's nothing like getting a degree for halfway through your studies. In other words, I haven't seen anybody who was supposed to complete a 4-year degree and then after doing 2 years, they couldn't pay the rest of the tuition, and so the school decided that we're still going to chip and give you the degree anyway, the certificate. I've never seen anybody. Well, if you don't finish through the finish line, you don't get it. Even if you do up to 3 years out of the 4 years and you don't have the money, you will not be getting your degree. You won't get your certificate, in short. Unless you defer and then you magically get the money and you come back. But I have seen a lot of people who actually go through the degrees struggle. Sometimes when I ask, why did you choose the degree option? Some of the reasons they give, aside from the fact that, well, my child is young and I feel that's the best option. One other reason that people give is that, well, with the 4 years, we were thinking we'll get a longer visa. Yes, you're right. With a 4 years degree, you are literally getting a 4 years visa or slightly more than 4 years. So in the mind of some people, it simply means I get more time to stay in Canada. Whilst that is true, you have a longer visa duration. The implication is that you also have a lot of responsibilities financially, school fees and living expenses. Do you see that? So when it comes to making the choices, you always want to look at your financial situation and ask yourself whether your parents can go the long haul. If they cannot go the long haul with you, you may have to stop midway when the challenges actually come in. And remember, the exchange rate in Africa is not getting any better. A lot of countries, local currencies are losing against the international big currencies out there. And so therefore, the amount you even have to convert to get your 20,000 this year may have doubled by next year. And for the next 2 years or next 3 years or next 4 years. If you don't believe it, just check the rate of the dollar to your local currency 2 years ago. And then check today. You'll notice you need a lot more local currencies to get the same amount of dollar today. So it is not always about 4 years visa, 4 years visa. With 4 years visa, there is more responsibility. That said, I think there are some groups of people who should definitely go for the degree, regardless of whether it comes with a scholarship or no scholarship. You should still go to university. Who are these people? Certain people with certain career or professional goals that can only be realized in universities. Let me say it in a different way. There are certain courses that you cannot do them in colleges. An example is medicine. If you want to study medicine, unfortunately, you have to go to a university, not a college. See what I mean? There are certain engineering courses that you may not find them in colleges. You may not find certain courses in colleges. Cybersecurity, for example, is just a recent thing in most colleges. It never used to be there like that. Artificial intelligence, these were mostly university courses. But now we have some colleges that are actually having some of these new courses or some, introducing some of these courses. But the point here is that if you know yourself and you know what you really want in this life, career-wise, and you know what course you really want, and you cannot find it if you cannot find it in the colleges, then you might as well have to do it at the university level. You cannot go to a college and do medicine. It's a fact. You have to go do a biochem or biology, whatever, in the universities, not in the colleges. So if you want to be a doctor or a dentist, you don't go looking for that stuff if you want to be a lawyer, you don't go to the college looking to do law at the college level. You can be a paralegal, you can do those paralegal courses at the colleges level. But there are certain courses that, based on just their design, they are mostly available at the university level. So for such people, the fees might not even be the deterrence. They will still go. I know some people who are in universities today, because when they came into this country, their number one goal is to become medical doctors. So for such people, you cannot even come and just tell them that, oh, school fees is cheap for colleges, so go and do college. No, that's not the guy's objective. His objective is to be a medical doctor. So if you really know what you really want to do, and you know which institution can give you what you want, it is not even about the cost sometimes. It's about where you can go and do it. So career choices play a big role. Of course, there are some programs that you can find in both the universities and also in the colleges. So if you think the difference is not much, you can definitely do them in colleges if you think the value you're getting is the same. Colleges are more hands-on or more practical, while universities are mostly the theoretical ones and also sciences too, isn't it? If you're looking for public health programs, mostly universities. But if you're looking for allied health programs, you can find some of them in the colleges. A nurse can do a diploma nursing in colleges, whilst another nurse will do the degree nursing in a university. When you both come out, the degree nurse will make more money than you. So sometimes it is all about, it's all about your objectives, your career, and whatnot and whatnot. Well, talking about people who want to do medicine or certain courses, I also know some few people who are also using creative ways to actually get some things done at the university level. Let me give an example. So some courses are restricted in Canada. You cannot enter into certain programs unless you are a permanent resident or a citizen. It's not easy for you to just come from overseas as an international student and walk straight and get admission into medical school in Canada. It's not. It's heavily regulated. So what some people do is that they've had to go take certain courses, at the university level, maybe in public health. And then when they go through all of that, they're hoping that when they finish, at some point, they will apply for their permanent residency. And then at some point when they apply for the permanent residency, they can go back into school. Well, there are also others who take a very different approach. They will say, okay, if I cannot get into this program because I'm not a permanent resident or a Canadian citizen and it's reserved for the locals here, then how about I just go do a college program for a year or two and use that to kind of just get my permanent residency. And once I get my permanent residency, I can go back and actually apply to actually enter into medical school or whichever program you want to enter. Oh, by the way, at that stage, when you become a permanent resident before entering to say medical school and stuff, also remember that your tuition also becomes a local tuition, meaning you will tend to also enjoy the privileges of paying smaller or a much lower tuition, just like a Canadian will pay. The average Canadian pays about what? 1/3 or a quarter of what international students pay. Whilst international students are paying about $20,000, $25,000, the average Canadian pays about $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 for the same thing. And this is the same for permanent residents too. They also pay the same low tuition that Canadians enjoy. So sometimes a tactical move could be, if this is what I want and I'm restricted because of my status as international, maybe let me do what can give me my PR now, and then later on I go in. Remember, it's all about choices. That said, colleges. I think colleges will also become the place for people who will not be meeting the entry-level requirement for universities. There are some of you who really want to do master's degree right now in Canada, but your GPAs are too low to enter into certain schools. You may have applied a lot more times and all the schools are rejecting you because they said your GPA or is too competitive. For such people, a college could make sense. Maybe going for an advanced diploma or for going for a graduate level certificate or diploma, which probably is similar to what you wanted to study at a master's level. Well, it won't be the same thing, but at the end of the day, it gives you the opportunity to still enter into a Canadian institution. I know some few friends who were trying to get scholarship at the master's level. They were not getting it. And the school fees at the master's level is no joke, $25,000 to $30,000 a year. So therefore, when they found out that there are colleges that could be as low as 14, 15, 16, 17,000, they're like, okay, instead of struggling to get this and rejections, why don't I actually go to the colleges and get a one year studies done? You see that? All right, so colleges could help those with low GPAs who will normally struggle to enter into traditional universities in Canada. Colleges are also quicker. In no time, you're almost done. This is not a sales pitch to promote colleges, but I'm just telling you the truth. They are quicker. In no time, you're done. University workloads are also much heavier. As a former master's degree student, I can tell you for a fact, it's no joke. Being a master's or a graduate student or even an undergraduate student in Canada will feel like you have no life. It's assignment upon assignment, deadlines upon deadlines, and it's just the nature of how rigorous the design is. So a lot of master's students or PhD students will tell you that, look, it's intense. But what about colleges? It is also intense, but the level of heat or the amount of heat at the college is probably more bearable compared to that of the graduate level at the master's. There's not to scare you, it's just what it is. That college students may get a little bit of a breathing room than somebody doing a PhD or a master's. Like, it's just what it is. Canada, US is no joke studying here at all. It's no joke. Now, there is also this perception out there that, especially based on where we are from, I'm an African, I'm from Ghana, we put so much premium on university degrees compared to polytechnic diplomas or HNDs. It's just because of how things, the colonial legacies back home is what it is. So those of us who went to universities, we tend to kind of think that we're better people than our colleagues who went to the training colleges and our colleagues who went to do their HNDs. Whilst that may be true for the countries where we are coming from, here it is mostly not always the case. Here, people have equal opportunities of landing jobs. In fact, here the average person who graduates has a job. So it is not like back home where a university graduate will have a better card or a better chance getting that job ahead of you an HND or whom you know and whom no. It's not like that here. Of course, sometimes who you know here simply means knowing the right people who can tell you the right jobs where the opportunities are. That's what it means in this sense. Whom you know in my African sense is not the same. The whom you know in Ghana or in West African context simply means who you can bribe to get a job. Here is mostly not like that. So whether you go to a college or whether you go to a university, you are all going to get your jobs. Of course, sometimes the pay level depends on the type of credential you have and your experience too. But all I'm trying to say is that the system here is more equitable. The system here is more accessible. The opportunities here are more even. So whether you go the college way or whether you go a university way, you all can come out and be gainfully employed. Unlike back home where the field is tilted and whom you know and who you can bribe and who you can sleep with and who you can compromise yourself with will determine who gets a job or who you are politically connected with. It's not. I'm not saying this place is not corrupt, but I'm saying that you don't get that sense that that is a reality out there. Of course, sometimes you may need to know that person who can tell you that these companies have better opportunities. This is how you get, somebody who is an insider there, who is not really trying to do you a favor, but kind of just to help you know the transition, the culture, the work, the organizational culture, the expectations, the hiring process, and what opportunities are available and what opportunities are opened. That is what we mean here by whom you know. So colleges have its own advantages. I personally think if your GPA is extremely low and you've attempted many times to enter into master's degree programs or PhDs and it's not working, the colleges are better for you. Remember, even when it comes to the college, you still will have to choose a program that aligns with your past or your background. By background, we mean your academic background, previous academic background, or your career background. If your course is completely misaligned, most of the time it becomes a bit tough to explain to the visa officer why there is such a disconnect between your past and your intended program of study. You'll have to string some kind of logical explanation coherently to convince the visa officer as to why they need to give you the visa. To come from a background, say, Bachelor of Fine Arts, all the way to personal support worker or nursing, why there's no connection. You never did biology, you never did chemistry. Why the switch? Colleges are more popular because it is also easier to get admission into most colleges. Universities are competitive. Look at this. The average department at the master's level in Canada has about 3 to 4 international students. Let me repeat. I did political science. In my class, we were 16 students. In my class, 16, that's a class size, masters. Now, out of the 16 students, 12 of them are all Canadians. 4 are international. And out of the 4, 3 of us were from Ghana. one from Russia. So think about it. If you really wanted to get into that particular school, in that particular department, in that very year, you had to compete with the 4 of us to get that slot. Globally, it means every country's applicant applying is chasing that same 4 slot for international students. At the university level, especially at the master's and PhD, the number of students from the what we call international student enrollment is lower or is narrow. But at the colleges, the cap space is actually more. The enrollment space is more. Colleges have more class sizes because they tend to actually be more profit driven. They will have multiple campuses. You find one school, this campus, this campus, this campus, this campus in different cities. Why? Because it's purely business. It's purely business, purely money driven. So therefore, you can find that in one particular class, you have over 100 students from one particular country, like India. When was the last time you entered a particular class and then 90% of the students are from India? And they are more than 20, isn't it? Because that is a college. And if you go to other campuses, you find. So therefore, the chance of getting into a college is higher because colleges have the capacity to admit more. As compared to a master's and PhD, where some PhD programs only one student from international. So the competition there is really, really high. Of course, colleges may have the same or maybe lesser enrollment capacity compared to universities at the undergraduate level. Undergraduate, I'm talking about the bachelor's program. So in bachelor's program, the class sizes are bigger. So that means that the ability to get a lot more international students in, say, this biochemistry or engineering class is higher. So that could compete with the college. But I will still say colleges have more capacity to admit more people than universities. Just take a look around and you notice that you find a lot more people gravitating towards colleges in recent time, not because it's just low tuition, but it is extremely easy. Well, without exaggerating, it is probably more easy competitively. If you compare comparatively, it's easier getting into colleges than in universities. There are people who may not enter into a university with certain grades from your high school. Maybe you had a D, you had an E, or maybe you had an F. And some universities may not even look at you if you submit your WAEC or your high school transcript. But some colleges may smile, especially some private colleges. They may just, it's much easier getting to college. I hope you understand what I mean. So guys, in short, when it comes to making these choices, always please look at what you want, what your finances are, what you really want for yourself. Now, finally, immigration goals can also determine where somebody studies. You see, an average of 1 year study or a study which is 8 months to 12 months will lead to a 1 year of postgraduate work permit. When international students finish study in designated learning institutions, what we call DLIs, and they complete, they have the opportunity of gaining Canadian work experience by working in Canada after graduation. If you do a 1 year study full-time from an approved institution that is eligible to run certain courses, you are eligible to get a 1 year postgraduate work permit. If you end up doing a 2 year program, or even if you don't do a straight 2 year program, but you do what we call 1+1, meaning you initially did a 1 year maybe in one institution, and then you ended up doing another 1 year, then you stand a chance of getting a 3 years postgraduate work permit. Now, because of this particular postgraduate work permit opportunity, it could also change how somebody actually makes a decision of where to school. Think about it. If I go and I do a 4 year undergraduate study and I finish, how many years of postgraduate work permit will I get? But even though you did 4 years, you will still get a 3 years postgraduate work permit. Now, my other friend who did a 1+1, meaning 1 year first and another 1 year in a college, what will he also get if he completes? He will also get the same 3 years postgraduate work permit. So even though the degree holder, undergraduate, spend 4 years, he's getting the same number of postgraduate work permit of 3 years like the college guy who did 1 + 1 or straight 2. But remember, we said that there is a likelihood that a college person may have saved themselves some money by paying lower tuition than the undergraduate student. But the outcome of postgraduate work permit is the same for both of them. Now, even if I was to do a PhD of 4 years, which by the way, 9 out of 10 people don't finish in 4 years. Majority will finish in 6 years. It is what the reality is. You will still also come back and get the same 3 years of postgraduate work permit. So therefore, this is one of the reasons that makes a lot of people choose whether to go study in a college or because they look at the math, they look at the finances. If it's going to cost me so much to study here to get, say, a 3 years postgraduate work permit, or it's going to cost me so less to study here and also get the same 3 years, if my career doesn't really matter like that in terms of the course I study, then you see a lot of people move into this direction. In fact, this is one of the reasons why many of you are choosing the 1-year programs in colleges and the 2-year programs of other. Why? Because you are looking to save money. You're looking to not just save money, but also to get the same postgraduate work permit that our university brothers will also be getting. Do you see that? All right. That said, even though colleges are cheaper, even though colleges could be less intense compared to some levels of studies in a university, even though colleges may also have certain programs that are also similar to that of those run at the university level, colleges have their weaknesses too. Like I said, you cannot find almost everything in colleges. And sometimes where there is a lot of traffic in terms of mass production, you also know the implication. Quality also tends to go down. A lot of colleges here, they are not really living up to the expectation. Standard quality getting bad. But it's because a lot more people are going there. Mass production. So it is something that is probably worth you sitting down and then analyzing to figure out whether this is good for me, my career goals, and this and that and that. I hope this video clarifies for you. So before you make a decision of going to do this at the university or do, please always analyze yourself. For some of you who are eligible for scholarship at a master's level and PhD, please go for it if that is your way. But for some of you who are having difficulty in getting in there, if you feel that a college will serve your interest, please do. For some of you who have certain career interests and goals, and you think that you can best achieve them at the university level by going to an undergraduate or a master's, you may want to still go through that way. But if you feel that you can find an equivalent of that same program in the college, and you can still come out by getting the same prospects out there, then the college could also be for you. Either way, just know that in Canada, you are either coming to a public university or a private university, or you are coming to a public or private colleges. Colleges, in my opinion, are a little bit more popular. That said, there are some few universities out there that run what we call accelerated degree programs. What is that? Degree programs that are fast-tracked to be quick, fast-tracked to finish on time or a little bit earlier. Instead of, say, spending 4 years, it's all been sandwiched and jam-packed into, say, 2 or 2.5 years, and you're finishing, you're getting the same credentials. There are a few of them out there, but if you also do find them and you think it works for your child, your ward or your child, you may consider going through. Just remember, I think if you do not have the money to spend on a 4-year undergraduate, don't send your wards to do those courses unless you know you have the money to pay. Because 4 years of undergraduate is not a small thing in Canada. It is real business and financially stressful. Thanks for watching this. Share this and tag somebody in it if you think it is worth it. God bless you. Have a good day. Bye.